I know this was like what, my third or fourth, no, this has to be like my fourth Charlie Kirk video. So by the request of a subscriber, the Dark Conservatarian, it was the Dark Conservatarian who asked me to talk about specifically the gun quote that people talk about, Charlie Kirk's statement on guns, but I wanted to read more than just that. So I had a phone call with him, and we were discussing race and, Charlie Kirk quotes, and I left the call, like, because we talked about everything, and, at the end of the call, it was like, I still don't agree with DarkCon over, like, the affirmative action quote that Charlie Kirk said. So I'm going to read some quotes from Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to include the full context. So Charlie Kirk said on the 23rd of January 2024, he said, and I quote, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." There is no lacking of context there. It is racist. I mean, these people, like, it feels like some of these people act as if they're the only way a minority can get anywhere in life is affirmative action or DEI measures. Like, I would challenge the MAGAs. Can you name one person that you wouldn't accuse of being a DEI hire? Because it's like someone getting elected to public office that isn't white or is a woman that they don't agree with, they will call that person DEI or affirmative action hires. Then he said, if you're a WNBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine? Now with this quote, I don't know why it was funny just reading it, because it's like, Jesus, he's really not trying to even hide it. I think a lot of people get treated better than a United States Marine. I think that ultimately, I'm not sure what point he's trying to go with there, but yeah, I'd say a lot of people, whether they are athletic or not, whether they are a teetotaler or a hippie, smoking weed, a straight white person or a black lesbian, I think a lot of people get treated better than a Marine. Happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. I do believe that there are people who target others based on the color of their skin, and that is by definition racist, and it's wrong. And I'm not trying to strawman Charlie Kirk. It's just I see a lot of people make this point, and then they go and justify, police brutality and racial profiling, as if due process isn't a thing. And if you're going to suspect someone of something, you better have some good proof that that individual did it. Then he says, that quote, Prowling Blacks quote, was from 19th of May 2023, and the WNBA quote was from 8th of December 2022. From the 3rd of January 2024, he said, and I quote, "If I'm dealing with someone in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action?" And like I said, these assholes think that the only way a person of color or a woman in general can get into anything is affirmative action or DEI. So that's why it's like, yeah, he was a racist piece of shit, Charlie Kirk. And his supporters can fucking cry about it all they want. He is dead. He is not in hell. He's not in heaven. He is in the fucking ground, or whatever they did with his remains. He is dead, and that's it. And they're going to have to get over it. When Trump, said about a school shooting to just get over it, it's like, well, fuck you. Then the quote that DarkCon and I had the phone call over, and I left that conversation still disagreeing with him. I don't care if he meant who he mentioned. It's like, well, I'll just read it. From the 13th of July, 2023, he said, and I quote, "If we would have said that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racists. Now they're coming out and saying it for us. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken seriously. You had to go still a white person slot to be taken somewhat seriously." I mean, there were statements that all of them made criticizing the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action. I'm against affirmative action. I think we should hire strictly based on qualifications, and we should absolutely only consider academic performance when deciding if we hire someone. I don't care if an institution was historically whatever. I think the quotas are ridiculous, arbitrary, and these people are like it's anti-white. Well, it's also anti-Asian. But the MAGAs hardly ever mention that unless they're trying to be opportunists. Because then they say that the China virus, Kung flu virus thing wasn't racist, even though it was. And look, I'm pretty careful with who I call racist. I mean, that's a pretty strong accusation. So, when I have people criticizing me for calling them racist for using that term, it's like, well, then don't fucking use it then. I mean, you can use it. It's in your free speech to use it, and it's in mine to call you a racist prick. So it's like, I mean, to act like all four of these, I mean, I don't really like any of, Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, who's now dead, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, different political views, of course. But to act like that was the only thing that got them in there, whether it be the law or media or politics. I mean, I am certain there's at least a few cases where you can tell someone truly isn't qualified, but these assholes go too far in acting as if like, oh, here's this person who is, I don't know, the first black person to be president of the United States, and saying he was affirmative action pick, even though he won the votes of tens of millions of people. Barack Obama did, or Kamala Harris, who was elected to public office repeatedly by healthy margins. It's like, at that point, it just screams insecurity. I mean, and then to say you had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. It's like, a white person's slot? Who decided that was a white person's slot? Because, last year Trump was saying that dumb shit, black jobs, white jobs, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck said or decided that was a white job or a black job or whatever? I mean, so yeah. I mean, with that, it's like, do I think affirmative action made the difference in some people's cases? Sure. And whether they got in. And I don't think it should matter at all, your identity, as that doesn't tell me if you're going to be good at a job. But when they start blanketly saying to everyone, like, oh, this person's a DEI hire, and then they start, making disparaging racist remarks, basically saying that Ketanji Brown Jackson is like, how do I put this delicately? They basically implied that she was like, drooling out of her mouth and, couldn't form a cogent thought on the Supreme Court. It's like, you guys are really making it easy for people to just call you racist, whether they're right or not. And in this case, they would be right with him. Let's see, what other contentious quotes were there? Because some, like the gun quote, I'm trying to find the gun quote, but as far as the gun quote, which is what DarkCon wanted to talk about, is, look, gun violence, everyone can agree gun violence is bad. With regards to how to deal with it, the gun control that was imposed by Joe Biden in his only term didn't stop a number of school shootings that have since happened. With regard to it being worth the price, like, gun deaths are an unfortunate price to pay for the right to keep and bear arms. I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that, and I think that that's not you consenting to being, it's like when people say that, then it's like, okay, well, if someone has an illegal abortion, then why are we sad that they didn't make it? Because, they were just exercising their right to choose. And yes, we need to get rid of the Hyde Amendment, because if abortion is going to be legal, then taxpayers should not have to pay for it under any circumstances. If Planned Parenthood cultists want to pay for it, then that's their money they can waste. He then said about Taylor Swift, reject feminism, submit to your husband, Taylor, you're not in charge. This was just 14 days before his death, which it's like, look, I'm not a traditionalist. I mean, I'm not, what's that term? Like, I'm not a fucking hippie, but I'm not a traditionalist. Like, to prevent abortions, it's called, fucking impulse control. Um, and when they act like they don't, it's just unrealistic, then you're just setting up a generation of people that have no impulse control, and it's pathetic. But it's like, yeah, that was just, it's like Taylor Swift, whether you love her music or hate her music, I don't give a shit which faction you belong to. She's made a shit ton of money selling music, and frankly, I don't see what's wrong with her making music. Whether you think it's great or terrible, her fans really fucking hate her most recent song. But ultimately, I think I like when they're talking about traditionalism, as in one parent stays home, one goes to work. That is workable for some people. It's not workable for everybody. I think it's perfectly fine if a woman wants to have a career of her own. And as far as I'm concerned, and you know what, you feel free to disagree with me all you want on that. That's fine. But the minute you try to have the state involved in that matter, that's when that state needs to be toppled. Like, brought to the ground. So then he said, on the 1st of April 2024, we need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately. With this one, I mean, I think gender-affirming care is bullshit. I'm just going to say that outright. It's not my most passionate subject to talk about, but just to be clear, I've never been particularly comfortable with the idea of gender-affirming care because, as far as I'm concerned, it's just cosmetics. It's just cosmetics. You don't have to put in work to be a woman if you're a biological woman, or a man if you're a biological man. Number one. Number two, as far as I'm concerned, I think the movement, they call it, like when these assholes call it trans ideology, it's like, when I think of ideology, I'm thinking of a pretty broad-based way of thinking, rather than them just vapidly saying, like others vapidly saying, oh, trans women are women. It's like, well, not biologically. All you're doing is cosplaying. But anyway, that aside, a Nuremberg-style trial. I'll have to make a video about the Nuremberg trials, but I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the fact the Nuremberg trials happened. I just think that the format was questionable. I mean, personally, I think that everyone who participated in the Nazi regime should have been executed. But in principle, it's like, if you're going to try someone for something heinous, it has to be in a more objective format, because you have the victors trying the defeated. But, and that's my head saying it. My heart says that they should have given no quarter to Nazis. Then, yes, gun violence, he said, and I quote, I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect other God-given rights. That's a prudent detail. It's rational. That was on the 5th of April, 2023. I think that, and like I said earlier, I can't say I disagree. I think one can always put it in a more delicate way. I would say, simply put, that gun deaths are inevitable. There is no gun control law that is going to magically prevent all gun deaths. I think that rather than legislation and rather than gun control, I think the most realistic thing we can do is have a culture of understanding with guns. You don't point it at somebody unless you don't point it at something you ain't willing to destroy. Treat a gun as if it's always loaded. Store it safely. Have trigger finger discipline. Don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're going to shoot. Some common sense like that. Then on immigration, he says, America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years. We dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever. we should be unafraid to do that. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I would say, with regard to immigration, I don't think it's a human right to come to this country or any other country. I think it's fair for every country to have an immigration policy. I think that, because, and I'm trying not to strawman Charlie Kirk here, it's just when I hear a lot of people talk about immigration, they typically, and they're having a problem, they typically just have a problem with non-white immigration. And I'm not trying to put words into Charlie Kirk's mouth, but it's like, at some level, it's just like, it's getting close there. I think that if you're going to have immigration, whether it be from any part of the world, I think it's not unfair to expect them to speak the majority language of the country. I don't think you need to have like an official, like mandatory, like this is, an English-speaking country, but I think if you're going to live in a country, you should have to learn the language. Otherwise, don't move there. Like if I'm going to live in Belgium, I should learn French and or Dutch. If I live in Mexico or Spain or a number of Spanish-speaking countries, you got to learn Spanish, so on and so forth. I think that it is more than fair to say that immigration does have its net benefits, whether it be economically or... I think, how about I put it like this? There's certain types of immigration where it's like it is not sustainable, where you have... You let a bunch of people in, but you don't have the infrastructure or the supplies necessary to accommodate that growth in population. Because if you can adjust to it, you have it at a rate where you can adjust to it, whether it be housing or employment, then it's going to, and in terms of cultural differences, where it's like, okay, we can have you learn English or whatever it is the language of the majority language, it's going to be rather smooth. Like, look at Spain. In Spain, you have a lot of people from Latin American countries moving to Spain. So they already speak the same language, and culturally they're not that different. So assimilation was pretty seamless. And given the fact we have Social Security and Medicare and all these other things, the boomers are retiring. That's going to be a problem in terms of the Social Security Trust Fund. So, and I'm not going to even get into the subject of Social Security beyond that, but, just halting immigration, like if we halted it from now till 2065, that's not going to work. Then Charlie Kirk says on the 20th of March, 2024, the American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white. And whenever I hear people get obsessed with demographics, typically they are racist. I personally think that in terms of the demographics of any country, I think it is pathetic for people to get like really, really obsessed with it. In terms of being white or being black or whatever your race is, doesn't mean you accomplished anything. Whether you be a white man, a black woman, what have you, these people just need to stop making their identity their personality. Like, I'm a straight white man. I don't tell you that every 5 minutes. You can see it. And frankly, I think it's just a little unusual how insecure people get when they have to mention that they're a straight white man, a black lesbian, or whatever. Then Charlie says, on the 1st of March 2024, the Great Replacement Strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. And, this talking point has been used forever and a day, and last I checked, there's still white rural America being there. And I also just want to go back to what he said about America becoming less white. Like 8 years ago, when I kept seeing people saying it's okay to be white. Okay, well, if you're okay with saying that, if you think that's okay to say, and frankly, I think the only people who actually say it unironically have probably grown up in the last 8 years, then you should be okay with everyone saying it's okay to be whatever. Insert identity here. On Islam, he said, and I quote, America has freedom of religion, of course, But we should be frank. Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America. And what are you going to do about it without having a draconian police state? I mean, I think it's just telling, like, whenever I hear MAGAs talk about freedom, they don't mean it. Freedom of speech, but not the speech they don't like. They virtue signaled and grandstanded for 9 years that the left is getting people fired over words and blah, 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 blah. And the MAGAs decided they're going to just do the same thing. Why? Because they got deep into their feelings, or fifis as they used to put it, and they decided that they would rather just emulate the left because they know that MAGA is going to be on the way out. I mean, there might be remnants of MAGA down the road, but they're doing a great job, once again, discrediting MAGA by just governing, by being in power. We've been warning about the rise, and this is from a quote of June 24th of June 2025. We've been warning about the rise of Islam on the show to great amount of backlash. We don't care. That's what we do here. And we said Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. And once again, I would ask, what are you going to do about it? Because if you have Muslim immigrants who are here legally and they have not broken any laws and would not be subject to deportation for legitimate reasons like breaking the law or terrorism or what have you, then they just hold views you don't like, or their religion is one you don't like, then what justification do you have to impose a response to the rise of Islam? Then he said on the 8th of September, just before his death, Islam is the sword of the left. Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. And that's funny he mentioned throats, given his... But, like, I am a critic of Islam. I think that it is backwards with women's rights, with LGBT rights, with having a secular government. I mean, there's been some progress made in the Middle East, but it's too fucking slow. But I will die on this hill that every religion has to be treated equally. You cannot discriminate based on religion. And when I say discriminate, you can't have an official state religion, and you can't persecute people for their religion while protecting other people's religious rights, whether they are religious or irreligious. Then on religion, he said, and I quote, "There is no, and this is from the 6th of July, 2022, there is no separation of church and state. It is a fabrication, it's a fiction, it's not in the Constitution, it's made up by secular humanists." Even though that's not true. Sure, the phrase separation of church and state is not mentioned in the Constitution outright, but Congress cannot pass legislation respecting the establishment of a religion, cannot impose a religious test. So, like a Muslim being elected to public office, anyone who says he's ineligible because he's a Muslim doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Zohran Mamdani should not be mayor of New York City. He will be elected, though, because Andrew Cuomo sucks. But he's not a bad candidate for being a Muslim or being born in Uganda. With regard to the Constitution, what makes a country a Christian country? Yeah, the majority of the country subscribes to Christianity. There are plenty of people who are not Christians. It's like 60-something% are Christians. Well, the rest aren't. Some are atheists, some are Jews, some are Muslims. And every time they have an example of a Muslim doing something bad, you can point to a Christian extremist or a Zionist doing something extreme. With regard to a secular government, I think is perfectly fine to have. As far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty hostile to those who want to have a theocracy, like really viciously hostile. Like, I would rather have a second republic than even have any contact between the church and the state. Personally, I think we need to have a second republic. You know, a politician can say they believe in whatever God they believe in, or if they don't believe in one, they can wear something that indicates their religion or lack thereof. But the minute they put taxpayer money towards religious institutions, then they should just be removed from power forever, because they clearly are going to do it again and again and again. Anyway, that's going to be all for now. I'm going to try to make another video tonight. Actually, it's rather early. I could probably just make another one tonight. I don't know. But anyway, that's all for now. I'll see you guys later.